On the subject of CGI being inconsistent within a single project, I just wanted to register that in Tomb Raider 4 they couldn't even keep the model of gun Tomb Raider. Why did I call her Tomb Raider? Lara Croft used. They couldn't keep the model of gun she used the same model between FMVs. Like she'd have a regular handgun in one FMV and she'd be dual wielding Desert Eagles in the next one. It was really bizarre.
Man, Tomb Raider, man, she's just a really good character in all
That
of it.
Tomb Raider.
Metroid is really cool. I want to play as her in another game.
Do you
And
think
that Halo guy
Metroid
is
and Tomb
amazing.
Raider would be friends?
They'd probably join up together after meeting Halo.
At least Lara Croft is the Tomb Raider in Tomb Raider, as opposed to Metroid, which is the monster that you're hunting.
Well, I guess depending on the games, Samus is Metroid because
I mean, Fusion, yeah. Fusion
because
and
of
Corruption,
war.
yeah.
It's like calling Ellen Ripley alien, you know? Wrong. Wrong.
Well, if she is on another planet, she is technically the alien.
Well, I suppose, but the alien was called Alien because in the first movie they were like on aboard a space station or a ship or something. I forget.
They found a space station,
Yeah,
a
and-
distress ship that was ruined, and the
And
alien happened to be on it.
the single alien that was killing them all was just on the space station. I need to get around to watching that movie. Goddamn it! It's just I'm rarely ever in the mood for horror films.
It's really good.
Yeah, I know. Wow, nailed it.
I feel like they just also called it Alien because calling it Xenomorph or whatever it's called is just feels more
Well,
like-
it's
not camp sci-fi but like pulp sci-fi, which isn't what they're going for.
well, they were also going for a horror feel, and you know, naming a horror film after the thing that is the monster or the murderer is a pretty basic thing. Oof! I forgot you couldn't jump on those things. I know. This is a really rough spot, okay? Because you have to get that key to open up the escape path. Oh no. So you can't kill this thing normally. I think you might be able to if you have a projectile power up, but got it. Nailed it. First try. But yeah, you have to open up the pathway to get out of that, and if you can't get that key, you're gonna be hurting. Oh no, I'm a rhino.
Okay.
The rhino allows you
cool.
to charge through enemies, but you can't double jump, and I think your jumping height decreases. So
It doesn't really look like a dinosaur. Oh, well, it looks more like a dinosaur than a rhino to me. If only just because a bipedal rhino just looks a little odd.
Weird.
yeah, well, it's got like hooves on the front legs. It's just standing up on its hind legs like a fucking Disney cartoon, only a really angry one. Uh, yeah, I can just imagine this guy sitting in an unemployment line because a Disney animator drew him and created him, and then he rejected him, so he's in Toontown's unemployment line.
That's it. He looks like a Toontown character. Oh my gosh. I never actually got to play Toontown growing up, but friends of mine did, so I watched a lot of them play.
Wait, what Toontown are you talking about? I was talking about Who Framed
The
Roger.
online browser game.
The Toontown game. You don't know the Toontown game? Oh
No,
man,
I don't.
You're missing out.
I was talking about Who Framed Roger Rabbit, man.
It was the Disney like browser MMO thing.
Oh.
It was actually like surprisingly well fleshed out.
Was that meant to be like a tie-in for Who Framed Roger Rabbit, or what?
No, because it came out in like 2002.
And Roger Rabbit's an 80s movie.
Well, that doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily mean they weren't doing a tie-in, because everyone knows Who Framed Roger Rabbit. But
I don't think that there's surprisingly very little reference to normal Disney stuff in it. Like, I don't remember if they ever mentioned like Mickey or any of those guys by name at all. I'm pretty sure they're not like
well,
in it. Like
now
as
The
characters.
popular guy who signs our checks.
to think about it, in order to do the Toontown references like directly to Who Framed Roger Rabbit, they'd probably have to go through a nightmare of rights stuff, because it was written by this guy who only used his own original cartoons, and then the movie happened, and then the movie used Warner Brothers and Disney stuff.
Well, who
and
owns-
Disney got super petty because they demanded that anytime
Equal,
or whoever.
equal screen time for all.
Down to the second.
Down to the
I'm
second.
pretty sure that like Bugs has like 0.03 more screen time or something like that than me,
Yeah.
or one of those kinds of things.
It's like half a second, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I understand why, but at the same time, no. Spider Forest. Oh boy, I remember this level being a pain in the butt. If I remember correctly, this is one of those bouncy spider web levels.
This game really likes to have bouncy environments.
Yeah, bouncy is pretty much the one word I would use to describe the game feel in Pandemonium. Bouncy. Even the jumping...
Now, if only they used a better sound effect for the bouncing.
The sproing gets annoying after a while. But, you know...
Yeah, because it's a very stock sound effect.
Yeah. I mean, Sonic the Hedgehog still has, like, the grand prize, most annoying goddamn... Oh god, it's Wood Zone! I don't... I'm sorry. I just realized that this is basically every fan-made recreation of Wood Zone ever. That thought probably just entered my head because I was talking about Sonic the Hedgehog, but... Yikes. Okay. But yeah.
What's the most annoying sound effect from Sonic, though?
The basic jumping sound in Sonic the Hedgehog. I've never understood why people like it, because it is the most annoying fucking thing in the world. Just...
I like it.
Just like the boing kind
Well,
of?
you're wrong. I mean... When later games did a sound effect that was, you know, just a swishing sound that emphasized the spinniness of the jump, I was really happy with that. But earlier games... Whoop! What is that? Why?
Did any of the... I can't remember because I haven't played them in years. Did the Sonic Advance games have, like,
I think they used the more 3D swishy sound.
Like the kind of thing.
Yeah. But, ooh, bear traps, by the way. How did that bear trap half close and then reopen itself? That's not how bear traps work. Is it a sentient bear trap? What the hell happened there? I bounced through the web. Okay, so collision detection isn't great.
Webs this size should probably also, like, you should probably hurt yourself by landing on them because spiderweb is proportionally about as strong as steel. So,
yeah.
Like, I mean, it probably would have more give than steel, I would have to imagine.
It'd be like,
but still, that's gonna hurt.
It'd be like steel cable, a little bit elastic and pliable, but still steel.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just go down here to grab this token. I do make an effort to grab at least, you know, a majority of the tokens I come across because that 300 milestone you need to get for extra lives isn't going to reach itself.
I find it weird that when you go under a covering, it just makes your model black. They wanted to do light source stuff, but
light source
they didn't
stuff
try
in
all
early
that
3D
hard.
Light source stuff in early 3D games is pretty not great. Like,
nope.
I mentioned Tomb Raider, which is a good reference point for 3D adventure games and atmosphere, and they didn't really get good lighting until the fourth game. They were trying, by gum. Like, in the second game, they introduced flares that you could light at any time in order to give yourself a light source in dark areas, but the dark areas weren't dark enough that you really needed them until 4. So, yeah.
This was more of a thing that the N64 did better than the PS1, just from what I am aware of, just because, you know, they were, it did have slightly better processing, if not, you know, better in a lot of other things.
Most of what was
a little bit better.
Yeah, most of what was holding the N64 back was its storage medium. They had to compress a lot of stuff down that could go that could go less compressed, not uncompressed, but less compressed on the PS1.
Yeah, and that's why Tony Hawk on the N64 only has like 5 songs in there. It's like half of them.
A lot of games that had voice dialogue had less of it when they made it to the N64. Gex is one of them. You would think that would make it less annoying, but you know, you're hearing fewer voice clips more often, so not really.
I guess I guess that's part of why people like. I've never played it for myself, so I feel like maybe I'm not. I don't really get it as much. But Conquer, I think just the fact that there's so much voice in that game to begin with probably is part of why people liked it so much when it came out. On top of like, because we were talking a lot about maturity and things like that, or like that's
damn it.
quotation marks. In terms of these games, like Conquer to me is kind of the epitome of like just trying to be like try hard is a bad way to put it, but
because it's aware enough to know that it's being try hard.
Yeah. In Conquer, it was part of the
South Park,
fun.
I guess is the best way.
Yeah. I mean,
to put it.
try hard works when it's aware it's try hard, and that is part of the fun. But there's some cases where it's pretty obvious they're actually trying to be taken seriously.
Yeah, Conquer isn't really trying to be taken seriously for the most part.
You saw a lot of that in the 90s with video games and comics. Like, one game would, achieve being taken seriously very well. And then another game would try to ape that and not do it as effectively because the people in charge of it weren't as good at identifying what made that work.
Oh, you mean like Todd McFarlane and then everyone else in the comics industry in the 90s?
Todd McFarlane?
Yeah, he made Venom and
Spawn.
And Image. It's such a funny story about that because Todd McFarlane in the Image Comics thing is a instance of they were absolutely right to make Image Comics because Marvel was treating them like absolute garbage, but their work was still not very good.
I can attest to that. I used to own some Image Comics stuff, including this like full volume graphic novel about this time when two people from two different universes, some woman in silver and a guy in the most stereotypical superhero costume I can think of, they kissed and ended the universe somehow. What?
So, a friend of mine in high school lent me the comic book for The Darkness, which had a video game adaptation at the time that was fairly popular. And one of the first issues in the series ends with, "We have to stop him from having sex," because if he has sex and has a kid, then he dies. Because
he's a praying mantis, I suppose.
I'm pretty sure Linkara did that at one point.
Probably, because it's a bad 90s comic. From what I hear, the game itself is actually quite good. But the comic is not. It's not good. It also just has terrible grammar as well. This was the 90s. Spell check existed. Alright, so there's no reason why you have to be using the wrong every single time.
In the 90s, I think they were still handwriting their comic book dialogue.
Probably, yes, but it's still...
Well, you can't spell check your handwriting. But, you should...
Not with that attitude, you can't.
If you're writing it, presumably you're doing it more slowly than but... So you're going to be paying attention to your spelling and formatting a bit more carefully. This kind of platforming in Pandemonium is a pain because your jumps are precise, but not that precise, And this is part of what makes the heart container that I go for in Part 5 a bitch to obtain, because you have to do a lot of that kind of platforming, and it's all very if you mess it up, you have to start the level over again because you don't just die; you fall down to a lower part of the level.
For me, the issue more looked like is that you couldn't see the platform coming when you were about to jump on it. So, maybe if they had done more things with the
camera angle, the camera angle is not great either for parts like this. One of the things that Pandemonium 2 does better is actually getting the camera angle right more often. So, oh damn it! I was trying to jump on top of that one. Oh, look at the squirrel in the background, just dancing sprite squirrel in the background. And that plant has eyes.
That bush is blinking at you. I don't trust it.
That's a ukulele.
Looks a bit shifty to me.
Ukulele plant right there. But
where were the logs coming from?
I don't know. Like in Crash Bandicoot, they had monkeys throwing them, didn't they? Apes of some kind.
Yeah. They're coming from off screen, obviously.
Some of them are coming from these little raised platforms with slots underneath them. So rolling log dispensers, I guess. I don't even want to think about how that makes sense within the logic of the level. Anyway, see y'all next part.